All right, test, test. There we go. Yeah, I had to sync that up one more time. So welcome everybody. What's up, Dee Dee? Nice to see you. What's up, Mondo, and Monique? What's up, Aram Vorax? Let me know if you can hear me okay. Yeah, I got a really nice shot of Jupiter, clear skies, bottom left corner, Callisto, then Europa, Io, top right, Ganymede. And I think, no, there's no red storm, but getting a zoom shot real quick. We got Saturn coming up in tow. Solstice is happening. An eclipse is happening across the world, but unfortunately we don't have a view of it. Saturday night, 11:45, another space stream. Tonight's gonna be tracks that I haven't played before. I finally put a few together, so let's get the show kicked off. What's going on, Mary? What's up, Genghis? Welcome all. Hope you're having a good weekend.
walls are free. I'm in search for someone into mysteries to spit some history. Then we'll cop them all and cut me from the stone. Used to be, I've been looking for something. Searching walls are free. See, I'm in search for someone into mystery to spit some history. And then we'll pop them all and cut you from the stone.
What up, y'all? Alright, so we got a lot of turbulence, but it seems like Stellarium was wrong. Said there was no Great Red Storm, but there it is. And we got some cool gray storms peeking into the center from the top ring. Counter-rotating currents on Jupiter. Electric fields, magnetic fields, rather. But the consciousness of Jupiter peering through. And just to make note of the show thumbnail tonight, the idea of conscious planets. Again, like I was talking about yesterday with Rupert Sheldrake, is the sun conscious? Is Earth conscious? Is it the same as us? And for me it is, but I also just want to like posit the question, have people think about it. So it's really interesting how we send a signal to Jupiter and then sympathetically resonate with its magnetic field and its aura and its consciousness, and then it sends back the signal. We kind of are able to see it, so-called, but we're also feeling it, and we're also connected directly to this object. And it's really fascinating how, regardless of the amount of space in between it, that your eyes can really send a signal to Jupiter. I find that just really fascinating. The way that happens, I assume, is that there's almost a snap or like a resonance in the eye, or sent from the eye through all these layers that, you know, your own shell, your own plasma layers into the atmosphere and beyond, and then ultimately, you know, really into Jupiter's atmosphere and its layers, and then it resonates backwards, and you kind of create this bond with the planets. Hopping in the chat to say what's up to Dagger Spells and Fantasy Ecstasy, and everyone else join in. Hope y'all are doing well. Every time I start to stream, it just gets super duper hot. I think it's probably because like the stream gets the computer running. Alright, more tunes and more chats. Let me know if you have any thoughts. Check out the links in the description if you're new in the archive. And yeah, it's a good time this weekend. Feeling good. What about this one? Yo, what's up, Holloway Arts? Welcome.
speechless in your slumber. I want you to remember your frozen heart so far away. You burn alive deep within the trembles you cut. You like what it resembles, but don't get down on your luck. You say, oh my sinking star, you are the lady of the sky. Join us, you're calculating change. You are the particles and waves. But don't get down on your luck, sinking star. You are the lady of the sky. Join us, you're calculating change. You are the particles and waves. Can we learn from the past? We go round and round, and lace your feet on clay. The nickel turns, cycling round and round. Our iron earth, but we're here to stay. I hope that it's over, but it tastes like a heart attack. Just die your brain, back to pineal ways. This one last time, great Lord Jack Shannon. When I met you, underneath the sky, underneath the skies. We carved a name in color trees. I hope that leads you back to me. Let's bring the heat, come on. Oh, my sinking star, you are the lady of the sky. Join us, you're calculating change. You are the particles and waves. But don't get down. Oh, my sinking star, you are the lady of the sky. Join us, you're calculating change. You are the particles and waves.
All right, I realize I exported the click, the click with that track or whatever. That's an old one. I'm doing it right tonight, not a single, no, that's not true, but probably haven't heard a lot of these in a while. So sticking with the old ones, just want to hop in and say what's up to Asteroid Labium, what's going on, NGC, how you doing, and anybody else joining, YoQ, what's happening, Dagger Spells, and Holloway, cool. Got some Saturn still rising. It is midnight on the dot, so rolling into Sunday here with y'all. June 21st, another night peeping our great planets. Really simple understanding of these fields can be seen with Saturn, of course, like what are the rings and how are the rings formed? How do they stay in place? How do they spin? All of that due to the fact that there is a structure counter space to Saturn, kind of compressing it into space, compressing it into matter that we can see, and then as well kind of creating the turbulence and the spiral from the outside in and then in outside. So the interplay between Saturn and its surrounding space, an electrical field. So it makes a lot of sense when you see the structure because you have the nucleus. So there's probably another nucleus inside Saturn, but as well, Saturn in and of itself is its nucleus. And then there's this kind of hourglass shape on top of that, and then toroidal field geometry. And that's where there's kind of inertial plane is where the rings form, they condense. And then, yeah, it's getting some cool, kind of stretchy glow tonight. But we have visual reference for all this geometry as well as the surface of the sun, as well as all these kind of counter-rotating currents around Jupiter, hexagon in the North Pole of Saturn, and this geometry is recursive on Earth, Mars, the Moon, on your hands, in honeycombs, in bubbles, and such. Now for more tunes. What's up, Shockwave? What's up, Silent Murmur? Welcome. Hope you all are having a good weekend. Let's do. I had a few of these picked out, so let's do nudes. Hopping in here for a second, talk about plasma and electricity. So this idea of plasma, the way I'm referring to it, is that I imagine that right now we're looking at white now, just looking at it. We're looking at Jupiter, right? So I imagine that Jupiter has all these different shells that create it, but then around Jupiter, we can imagine these, they're just there, these fields in layers, gradiated, thin, double layers, but also layers upon layers of Jupiter's existence, its consciousness. Same thing with Saturn, same thing with people, same thing with particles. And I say particles, but I also think particles are a particular resonance, the way essentially just a tiny point at the smallest scale that we can imagine, and then the largest point at the largest scale we can imagine, or dimension that we can imagine, does the same sort of thing. So if we take a particle as a point, or as the conceptual point of instigation of the now, then in a way plasma resonates. Or you could say that electricity resonates within plasma, but I think that there is this potential energy field or electric field, and it's made up of what I imagine to be this kind of just the raw substance of the universe. What that is, I don't really know, but honestly, like, it makes more sense than that there's nothing there, or that space is electrically neutral. It makes more sense that there's actually electrically charged particles. Each of them have a bubble. Collections of them have larger bubbles. And bubbles, you know, stretch and push and create hexagons interlocking, create circle packing and hexagon packing, like we see in honeycombs or molecular structures. So space is connected that way. When we look at Jupiter, we send a signal through these layers to Jupiter, and Jupiter sends a signal back. Our brain interprets that signal using these plasma layers. So the collapsing of the wave function, if you've heard that before, in terms of light, in terms of photons, if you can imagine that particles or photons or dots or points are never really static. There's nothing still, and so it's always moving. Therefore, this idea of particles or bumping particles doesn't exactly make sense, because it's actually a squiggly line, probably, more akin to string theory. Which is why, like, really embracing plasma cosmology and the electric universe concept, you can really actually pull together all the stuff from quantum mechanics. You can pull in special relativity. Even this idea of Einstein's clocks and the fact that everything almost has its own time, in a way, makes sense within this concept of having your own conscious shell of plasma that is tuned and resonating, and that it resonates at the frequency of a certain, like, you know, that's what the genetic code is. Code is really just hyperbole for this resonance of plasma that forms what we recognize as self and as other. Let's see, hopping in the chat. Yo, what's up, Jedi Princess? How you doing? Hunting wabbits, exactly. Be very, very quiet. Shockwave says, planets can't be conscious. They aren't alive. Only living matter can be conscious. Yes, they swim in the same consciousness that we share, but they are non-living matter. So we've talked about this before, Shockwave, but I totally disagree with that. I think that possibly even when I was listening to Rupert Sheldrake, he was talking about how chairs, let's say, or a table is not conscious the way we imagine it. But I think actually absolutely everything is conscious to some degree, because it's constituted of the same stuff that we are made of. So, and fractally, consciousness exists in every particle and every system in the same way, although each system has its own complexity and resonance. So for example, planets are not necessarily conscious exactly the way humans are, but they are absolutely conscious in terms of how we can see them, because they're sending us a biological signature right now. They don't just exist on their own, separate from us. Let me know what y'all think about that, because I know, Rick, you're pretty staunchly on that side, but we've had this discussion as well about birds and trees, and I really think that the new understanding of it is that birds, trees, animals, planets, the sun, space is just as conscious as us, just in different ways and at different dimensions. There's no reason why it shouldn't be that way. It makes less sense if we're separate from it somehow. But it makes perfect sense to me, because we grow along a spiral. We have 2 eyeballs, 2 lungs, the symmetrical dipolar structure of symmetry of reality is recursive throughout everything. Shockwave says, non-living matter does not have the DNA antenna. So to that, I'll say the antenna is the center of every single particle that I imagine. So the antenna exists as a collection in your pineal gland of all these tiny microscopic field geometries being aware of themselves. Collectively, they become aware of a larger dimensional scalar system. And then, so our brain can reach out into a 60-foot field of our own consciousness and resonate with it. It can also use the rest of the field around us to send a signal to Jupiter to see it. How do we see? I mean, if you look at some of the old Cartesian Descartes working out like optics, and you talk about, you listen to some of the Rupert Sheldrake morphogenetic field, you'll see that field resonance is how we interact with the world, with each other. So touching is not absent of vibration. Seeing, hearing, all of these are resonances within these shells. And you know how somebody's like, they burned an image of that face in my memory or something like that. You're basically imprinting on these shells, these ideas. You're not imprinting it in your head or in your eyeball forever. You imprint it somewhere, and then you're able to recall. So why wouldn't planets have the same sort of thing? Jupiter recalls every day that it has a red storm going on. Otherwise, that wouldn't exist. So at the core of Jupiter, there's an antenna. In every particle of Jupiter, there's an antenna of the small self, and then there's a larger brain of Jupiter that senses us looking at it. It's got to be that way for me. When we say we're tapping into the collective consciousness, people have this idea of the cloud of an imaginary system. But in fact, it's just like if you imagine that one sphere has a cloud of information around it that's persistent and pervasive, then groups of particles have their own cloud, and then societies, cities, and countries have their own cloud. That's what people are tapping into when they maintain traditions and culture, when the universe makes humans. So when we come into existence, the structure of our system is based in these groups, in this imprint of whatever the DNA, whatever you want to use the term for, but DNA for me is just a little spiral with a charge, and it just is moving through the ether, creating this resonant image of the human, the stick man, stick figure. Holloway Arts says, it's not in our heads, the stars are projectors. I think the stars are, like little nodules on a root system. And this root system is growing stars and people and planets. And so we're all just as powerful as planets and stars, and we resonate together. Speaking of which, we got this awesome great red storm on Jupiter, and it's getting a little clearer, thankfully. The other thing is society is biomimicry, and that's why I think we're creating the cloud. So we're trying to recreate what we know as reality. So what is the cloud? It's a bunch of servers, it's a bunch of data centers, and people use their devices to tap into that. Why wouldn't it be exactly the same as what we already have, which is culture and a natural version of the data cloud? Shockwave is saying, we think ourselves special. We aren't. We just use the consciousness better than any other living thing. But in saying that, it's almost both thoughts at once. You're saying it's arrogant to think we're special, but we use consciousness better than other things. So it almost cancels itself out. Yes, we're definitely special, And yes, we're also conscious in a way that other things are not. But other things are equally special, you know. Well, I guess special is rarefied, but still means I still think that it doesn't make any sense that we're differently conscious than planets and stars and moons and creatures on Earth. There's no actual proof of that. It makes way more sense that we're interconnected and work together in tandem to create this world together. Hey, Esoteric Gold, welcome. Yo, welcome 7-Eleven and more.
Calling in from outer space, holding up their answer line. Send you that telemetry and tell me what you'd do with it if you were me.
This mission from above, she said it was the kernel. Activity making love, it wasn't eternal. We got you back on stage, just to never hurt. Your band had left the classes, wasn't even booked. This in the middle, cause I can't afford it. Led to the side on that big taxi. No matter how you earn it. This full co-wrecking through when your life was bitter. When you're to your rebirth day, we busted out on Twitter.
Rolling out of this tree, feeling the sun density too. Rolling out of this tree, feeling the sun density too. Rolling out of this tree, feeling the sun density too. Rolling out of this tree, feeling the sun density too. Calling in from outer space, holding up the rest of life. Send you that telemetry and tell me what you'd do with it if you were me. Falling away from the earth, calling up the space, but you don't even hear me. I'm calling down from the bottom. are you needed? A well of my heart, you're not to leave her. Orbital sunlight sounded for my brain, but it's not insane. And then you spiral arms like the notes you say, extending your shape to the red of the game illusion. And told me what to need to sever the leaves over and over. We came to the same conclusion. Let's just not lose it.
hopping in here after a few of these deep cuts. So I saw the Gaia preview for Thunderbolts Project, but it does piss me off though how much they have to hype it. For some reason they think, or they, the collective evil they, always thinks that you really have to hype up these shows. Could it be that the universe was electric? Could it possibly? So stupid, because in and of itself, the concept is already staggering. So anyway, but I'm glad that it's getting some traction. And I know that Gaia TV is like trying to do some stuff, but for me, it's always, that's what stands out, these idiotic references to hyping things more than they need to be. They're already pretty hype. Let's see, I want to say what's up to everybody in the chat. Thanks for the great discussion. Everybody, I think Mary, you had to leave. Have a great night. What else we got? We got some donuts being tossed around. We got Richard Garcia, what's happening? Welcome. Got Stefan, what was the name of that song? That was called Blue Wave, and that's on Calling My Mind. The album link is in the description of the video. Before that, it was something else. You Yourself, which is on Calling My Mind as well. What's up, Gabrielle Freitas? I'm going to go over to Saturn in a few minutes. Just Jupiter's already above my windowsill, so if I move away from Jupiter, I'm probably not going to be able to find it again. And still we got the red spot, got the 3x Barlow magnifier in there. So I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to stick with Jupiter's as long as we can see it, and then I'm going to switch back over to Saturn. Yeah, like I said, totally support that kind of information, but I would definitely highlight some of the stuff that Sky Scholar is doing. Dr. Pierre-Marie Robitaille, really advanced kind of breakdown of contemporary understanding of the cosmic microwave background radiation, and Kirchhoff, and just really diving back into his channel every week or so. Just gives me a better fundamental understanding on the approach to things. But ultimately, he really is talking about mass spectroscopy when it comes to reading the distances of stars, the heat signatures of stars, the composition, the elemental composition of stars. And for me, I think it's a very simple understanding of the fundamental geometry and the fact that plasma imprints, it forms into matter or collapses waves, or just really records a signature of an element like hydrogen, or it records a signature of brightness, or it records a signature of redshift. And these things are just generally under the larger umbrella of the larger geometry, the Birkeland spiraling currents, the branching, and the toroidal hourglass hyperboloid geometry that actually constructs everything, which is this kind of incommensurability, as Ken Wheeler would say. See, thanks, great song, thank you. Loving the view and playing keyboards, awesome. Holloway says, I'm annoyed about Gaia because it now gets more notice, but now it'll be associated with Bigfoot, Atlantis, and ancient aliens. So that's the other thing I've talked about before, but if you use Electric Universe to explain these concepts like Bigfoot, like Atlantis, and all the ancient alien stuff, you realize that, one, we don't need aliens because there's sympathetic resonance, there's using sound to levitate things. Gravity on Earth could have been different because of the size of Earth, the resonance of Earth. Therefore, you can explain gigantism, you can explain the pyramids and larger structures, monolithic structures. And then Bigfoot, you could easily relate it to the stories like the gods or the the ideas of watching plasma filaments in the sky and anthropomorphizing them, humanizing them for record. And also, you know, Rupert Sheldrake made a great point about not just anthropomorphizing the planets, but people believed that the planets themselves were conscious and creatures like us. Therefore, it made a lot of sense to actually give them names and human characters. Anyway, long story short, I feel like Gaia simultaneously allows, the system itself, not just Gaia, but all these New Age channels allow for aliens to be a real thing. And I know that now, get back into that whole kind of rant about aliens, but really if you just try and eliminate the alien concept theory, then you realize that you can kind of use the attributes of plasma shells and electricity to explain a lot of these phenomenon, like ectoplasm, like ghosts. The retention of information of societies in the ether is akin to ghosts. Same thing with houses, retaining a plasma layer around the house, the memory of the house, trees, things like that. Telekinesis, and telepathy being a real thing based on shells, based on plasma signatures. This is the stuff that I'm interested in. Anyway, I feel like Bigfoot could have been one of those things where, you attribute these ancient mythos. It also could have been a real creature. We have humans and we have bears and we have everything in between. What's up, Constantine Blaze? A most bodacious greeting to you. NGC says, yeah, Skyman or Sky Scholar is very smart, but needs a new suit. It's hilarious. He's just such a real, I don't want to say he's a grandpa, because he has such great energy. But really, I don't know. I got to give it to him. The channel is clean. It's consistent. He has graphics. I think his son does graphics. But yeah, the stuff he talks about is real science. It's so funny how people who want to talk about science go on and they listen to Joe Rogan, or they listen to Lex Friedman, or they listen to Kurzgast or any of these channels. And those channels are so dumbed down compared to listening to Pierre-Marie Robitaille for 5 minutes talking about actual science. But not in a way that's insulting. You know what I mean? So if you listen to Eric Weinstein, I've been mentioning him a few nights, but he's talking about this grand unified geometry, and the complexity of the way he presents it is just not approachable for many people, even if you understand what they're talking about. So why even present something like that? Is it to prove that you're cool? Is it to impress your colleagues? When you're presenting a grand unified concept of the universe, a lot of people should be able to understand it. I think that hiding behind complexity is just the sign of an amateur. So, not saying it's aliens, but aliens. Let's see. Genghis Khan says, the red storm has continued to exist for centuries. Is there no planetary surface to provide friction on the circulating gas eddies? Maybe my brain is not working tonight, but I don't understand the question. But I guess you're implying that Jupiter needs a surface in order to maintain the storm. Why wouldn't it have a surface? This idea that we just live in this world where there's these hyperbole like gas giants, and all of a sudden we think they're like clouds. But that doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense that we're seeing Jupiter now, and it's got layers and layers and layers of different materials condensing along these electrical magnetic shells and forming Jupiter. So there might be some sort of surface that connects the bottom of that cyclone to the surface, or to the cloud layer that we're seeing. Bigfoot, his name is Daryl. It's pretty funny. Let's see. E.T. is just to make money. I think so. I want to reiterate, I would love it if there were aliens, and if they showed up in a spacecraft, it would blow my mind like everybody else. But I will say that SETI, exoplanet research, and all the YouTube channels that talk about aliens being real, like beyond a shadow of a doubt real, do not have any evidence of that besides speculation. So it's just one of those things that I had to step away from that way of thinking about it, because it always, it almost sullies, kind of creeps into every type of discussion about history. Were there aliens? Did aliens hybridize humans? Did aliens build the pyramids? And it just makes everything so diluted, and you can't really consider that, no, they were just people like you and I, and they were very powerful, they were smart, and Rupert Sheldrake was actually talking about something very interesting about rituals, about us repeating rituals to connect with our past selves. And I like that idea a lot, because, you know, as we go through these spirals along the Birkeland filament, we're creating images and echoes of our past selves and reconnecting with them in memory. And I really like that. All right, more tunes here, and I'll switch over to Saturn. I think we're losing the view of Jupiter, but it's been great tonight. Got the whole cycle of the red storm going from the middle to the very edge right here, showing Jupiter's rotation, even in, like, what, an hour? So, pretty crazy. Let's see, which song shall I play? Here, I'll do a brand new one. I've been trying to do deep cuts, so hope y'all have been enjoying not knowing which songs I'm going to play next, but here's a new one called Sleepless Rider.
lost and lost the river.
Yo, yo, just wanted to say what's up. Michael McDuffie. Nice to see you, brother. It's been a while. Shockwave, you heading out? I'm about to wrap it up too in a few minutes. A couple more jams while Saturn drifts. Got the 3X here looking at Saturn. It's looking real nice, but definitely having some turbulence. It's to be expected. I'm glad y'all enjoyed that last track. That was No We Can Survive. And the one before that was, what was it? Cross the River? No, Cross the River was that one. Cross the River or No We Can Survive, whichever. And then before that, Sleepless Rider. And I'll play a couple more new ones. Who else? Did anyone else join us or leave? If you did, thanks for coming by. Like I said, I'm going to start streaming a little bit more often as Jupiter and Saturn rise earlier. I'm excited for the new moon. I still am contemplating whether I want to set up on the back porch, so it's been so nice with the 11, like this setup right here. But maybe I'll get back to streaming on the back porch. It's just such an ordeal, especially when it's hot, and yeah, it's way more comfortable. But let's see, any other comments? Hard to imagine what the rings would look like from the surface. Supposedly they would fill the distance between Earth and the moon. Yeah, how amazing is that? Just like seeing all the dust and seeing all the different moons. I do imagine the planets have a surface of some sort. And you know, I'm really not against the idea that there might be Saturnians, people who live on Saturn and just are kind of in the same situation that we're in. They have like a shitty government, and they have good people and bad people, and they haven't left the surface of Saturn, and they look at Earth often, and they're like, I wonder what's going on that planet, that little dot over there. That would be cool. Let's see. Sexy dong stylings, hilarious. All right, a couple more. I was wondering, sexy song, sexy dong. Anyway, this stream is R-rated for intelligent, rintelligent, rated I for intellectual. Okay, this one's called Still Feel, and then, is it? I think so. Yeah.
Rising up so high, you break into my night, cutting to the edge of my world. But I still need, like the puppet's got to breathe. I can feel your fire tearing up the street, tearing up the street. You feel like the freeze of my dream. I still breathe 'cause there's something more to see. I can see the wires straight up to nature, blowing on the sails of my heart. Twilight's coming over. Ooh, deep inside it's always incredible.
So sorry about that. That was terrible. Alright, figured I'll play one track to take us out. Hope I didn't burst anybody's eardrums.
See, don't slow me what you dream. No will for the one you left, and you call up beside you, and you fly. You're my hurricane. I screwed that up, didn't I? You're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. You're my hurricane. No love when I lost you. Love, now I lost you. You're my hurricane. You're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. Multitasking and flying towards it. The rug at your rafter and rise from the dead. Spiraling with you, picking up all the pieces of my heart. You're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. No sleep when I lost you. You're my hurricane. No love when I lost you. Love, now I lost you. You're my hurricane. My hurricane. No sleep, now I lost you. You're my hurricane. Ooh, you're my hurricane. No sleep when I lost you. Da, 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 da. All right, last one here. Thanks y'all for the kind comments. I just went right into it without warming up, but that was called Hurricane, and this one's called Bring Me Back. This cosmic celebration, we all have our bases to play. Institutions grinding against the grain. In this world we got nothing to fear but ourselves, apparitions that we bleed through. Every fool your open eyes, so modulation. You just can feel this rise so high, your love I'm craving. Ooh, just don't feel long cold, you know, bring me. Da, 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 da. So funny tonight, I feel that in my bones, oh, inside of me, oh, each side of me, yeah, bring me back, just bring me back out of the phone. Every fear you're open wide, so gotta want to feel your open wide soul modulation. You just can feel this right so high, your love I'm craving. Oh, just to feel it till you bring me back. All right. Yo, what's up, Peter Battle and chat room? Thanks for the kind words. Just had my eyes closed going through that one. All right, ending this one on catch. I'm gonna practice those other two. They are the fresh tunes, so it's a little bit like doing them for the first time. They will be part of the repertoire soon. All right, le dernière fois pour ce soir. Merci beaucoup à tous. I left home at 17, couldn't tell you, I was living the dream. What could I do? For a while I played the field. How could I prove the hidden yield without the blues to fear? My heart was cool and left no residue. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. The moon goes high and up like Saturn used to know. Yeah, oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. fall. Catch me if you're low. Ooh, the moon goes high and low, like love you used to know. Yeah. Catch me if you fall. Catch me if you're low. Gotta speed up the track just a little. Wake up in solitary, yeah, wake up, it's imaginary, man, don't you know, your life is worth way more than this, yeah. What would you have me do? It's stimulation, wake up in solitary, wake up, it's January, yeah, man, don't you know, your life is worth more than this, your life is worth more than this, catch me if you fall. All right, good peoples, thank you so much. Love performing for y'all and playing and sharing the views and the news from space. We lost our planets for the evening or for the morning, but I'll try and be back on again tomorrow or the day after with some more of this. Have a great day tomorrow, great rest of your night if you're still partying, and yeah. I'm gonna let this scope drift off. Shout outs to each and every one of you, and thanks for all the kind words. And thanks to everybody, and good vibes to everybody who wasn't here tonight, and all the people who leave me thumbs down, because you need everybody in order to exist. So we got so much, and gotta feel appreciative for that. Do something kind and do something smart. Good night, everybody. Catch you on the next trip. To the mind of the through the wind of the colony of animal intelligence, so sweet we can drift to this and sink to that.